सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ परं वरिष्ठं ब्रह्मिष्ठं परमानन्दरूपिणं परमार्थानन्दयतं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। So in this final part of the teaching, Shankaracharya is presenting the Mahavakyam, which is the central theme of all Upanishads. The Mahavakyam equates Atma and Brahman. We also saw that there are several Mahavakyams, and the one that's taken here is Tat Tvam Asi of Chandogya Upanishad. In this statement, the Guru is revealing to the statement that Tat, the creator, Ishvara, Brahman, is none other than Tvam, you yourself, the created individual, the Jiva. So you are Ishvara is the literal meaning of the Mahavakyam, right? Now, normally, like when we say, right, Maya, whenever we refer to Maya, there was a question in the last class also. Should we count Brahman and Maya as two different things? Very important point to note here is, and I like this because Swamiji just gave this example in a recent class. Now, when a person is walking and, he's speaking, you don't say the man with speaking power, right? Or man and speaking power. You just refer to the man as man. So similarly, you can, compare Maya Shakti as being the power, right? So just so that people are able to relate better. So it's not a second thing, but it is very much in Brahman, or we don't even use these prepositions when it comes to Brahman. Okay. So just an aside note, I wanted to mention this because last class somebody asked this. So now coming to the Mahavakyam, the student will not be able to accept the statement. Why? Because the individual has inferior attributes, whereas Ishvara has superior attributes. So you will wonder, how can these two be equated? So the teacher is explaining and resolving the possible objections in these important verses. So we were seeing that if you take the conventional meaning of the words Jiva and Ishvara, then the equation will not work. Therefore, you should not take the conventional meaning, the Vachyartha. We have to take the special or implied meaning, the Lakshyartha. And Lakshyartha can be arrived at by employing Lakshana, the method of implication. So we saw in the last class 3 types of implications: Jahati Lakshana, Ajahati Lakshana, and Jahati Ajahati Lakshana. Right? So we saw this in the last class. I gave you the examples of coffee and the water, right? And also I gave you the example of my classmate who had approached me and how that person is the same as this person. I explained all that in the last class, right? So we were seeing this verse, Tatastu tau lakshanaya sulakshyau tayora kandaikara sattva siddhaye Nalam jahatyana tata jahatya kintu bhayartatmikaiva bhavyam. So Nalam jahatyana tata jahatya, both these explanations, Jahati and Ajahati, will not work in the Mahavakyam. Therefore, you have to go in for a third Lakshana, which is Jahati Ajahati Lakshana. That means dropping is also there, inclusion is also there. So from the standpoint of one part, which is dropped, it is Jahati Lakshana. From the standpoint of the other part, which is not dropped, it is Ajahati Lakshana. And I did give the example of my classmate, and I said, if you look at the Vachyartha, the direct meaning, there will be so many problems by the pronoun itself, right? I said that Raju is the same as this Raju, right? So the pronouns, that is remote and this is close by, and it is separated by 40 years. So that refers to that time and space because the school was elsewhere, right? And this refers to proximate, close by, very close time and space. Therefore, that and this pronouns can never be combined, right? They are contradictory. So what is far away cannot be close by at the same time, right? So that and this can never be combined. So this is contradiction one, right? Second contradiction is the person itself. In this case, Raju, as I said, might have been a young person at that time, and he would have had black hair. Now he's grown older and you might not, see the same hair on the head, etc. Right? So the features, the attributes are different from what a person was in school to what that person is now, right? So he was like that, he is now like this. So physical features are totally different. So this equation is to be understood only by giving up the Vachyartha and all those things which are contradictory between that Raju and this Raju. So what are the contradictory things? I said that and this you will take out, right? Time and space you have to remove. So past and present and all the physical features which are contradictory, you remove. But when you see the person behind that name, like Raju, then, and when he says, yes, I am the same person, then it is that continuous entity, right? That person, which is the same. So Vyakti Matram, which is behind the physical features, right? Look at only that. So we are referring to Jivaha, who is basically behind the variable body, not to the body itself. So, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara. So, there is a Dehi consisting of Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram, Chaitanyam, etc. So, there's an individual behind the changing physical features. That individual we understand and we equate the youthful and the aging person, right? So here in the Vachyartha, the contradictory features we remove. We do not remove the person. We retain the individual behind the contradictory features. Since we retain a part from the standpoint of the individual, it is Ajahati Lakshana. Whereas from the standpoint of the contradictory physical features, which are ignored, it is Jahati Lakshana. Thus, Jahati, Ajahati Lakshana, we apply when we equate a past and present person. And even when we are equating the dreamer and the waker, we are actually using this Lakshana. Up to this, we saw in the last class. Now, after waking up as a waker, I say, oh, I dreamt of Tirupati Darshan, right? So when you say I dreamt, you make that statement as a waker. Thus, I'm equating I, the waker of the present, and I, the dreamer of the past. So it is a dreamer-waker equation. So whenever you equate dreamer and waker, Vachyartha cannot be applied. So if you take the Vachyartha, the dreamer is different, the waker is different. But at the same time, you cannot totally drop the Vachyartha also because they are one and the same also. Therefore, we ignore the contradictory features between the dreamer and the waker, like the dreamer's body, the waker's body, dreamer's time, space, coordinates, etc. And what is the common unchanging principle? That Sakshi Chaitanyam. Whenever we say in the waking state, I dreamt or I slept well, the meaning of the word I is the Sakshi. So you're equating the waker with either the dreamer or the sleeper when you're equating, right? So you're actually equating Vishwa Taijasa Prajna. We are not going by Vachyartha. You're unknowingly referring to the common unchanging principle called Sakshi Chaitanyam, which is ever behind the variable features. Thus, Jahati Ajahati Lakshana is also very, very common. Everybody understands I dreamt or I slept well, but on analysis, very deep Vedanta is involved in those statements because in that statement, I really means the Sakshi Chaitanyam. So a lot of mananam is required. We need to think about it. It will be very useful for our understanding. So therefore, we saw 3 examples. I consume 2 cups, right? Then we saw bring water. And this is that Raju, right? So we saw 3 examples for the 3 different lakshanas. Jahati, Ajahati and Jahati, Ajahati lakshana. Now we have to apply the third one to understand the implications and see how it applies to the Mahavakyam. That is what is actually said in this shloka. So in order to understand this shloka, I had to go through all the Lakshana examples, right? Na alam tata na ajahatya. Jahatya means Jahatya Lakshanaya. Na alam, not enough, not proper, not appropriate. The word alam is basically an avyayam and it governs Tritiya Vibhakti for those of you who understand Sanskritam a little bit. So Jahatya na alam, Jahati Lakshana na paryapta. It is inappropriate for the Mahavakyam. And na tata ajahatya alam. So we have to split Tata jahatya as tata ajahatya. That means what? Ajahati lakshana is also not okay. Aparyapta. Not okay. And then which one is? Right? Kintu ubhayartha atmikaya eva bhavyam. Right? On the other hand, ubhayartha atmikaya eva. Lakshanaya eva. Means you should use a lakshana which contains ubhaya artha. Ubhaya artha meaning both jahati lakshana artha and ajahati lakshana artha. So take a meaning which contains both partial inclusion of the vachyartha and partial exclusion of the vachyartha. So ubhayartha yuktaya jahati lakshana ajahati lakshana yuktaya eva bhavyam. Bhavyam means is admissible, should be employed. So Ubhayartha Atmikaya Lakshanaya Bhavyam, that alone you should use. So when you say I am God, you need not feel awkward at all about it. Comfortably, the Advaitin says I am God. When he says I am God, he takes the consciousness part and sets aside by Ajahati Lakshana. He sets aside the three bodies, but he keeps this consciousness principle through Jahati Lakshana. Similarly, in God, right? He removes the Maya part, which makes God superior creator. That Maya part he removes. God is the all-pervading consciousness. Thus, I, the consciousness in the body, and God, the all-pervading consciousness, both are one and the same. So, I, the enclosed consciousness behind the body, and God, the all-pervading consciousness, which appears as existence everywhere, both are one. Not only that, when I assimilate this, it is such a big relief. Why? Because I will learn to look at the body objectively from the standpoint of the Sakshi Chaitanya. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha. So that shloka can be easily applied. The body will come, body will go, mind will be happy, mind will be unhappy. Life is continuously changing. I can witness all those changes without violent reactions, remaining well anchored in the Atma. So we can say, I am God without any conflict, without feeling, diffident, without feeling, oh my God, it's blasphemous, etc. Right? So, in fact, the Upanishad itself says how a student, after understanding the Vedanta, claims, Mayeva sakalam jatam, Mai sarvam pratishtitam, Mai sarvam layam yati tad brahma dvayam asmyaham. So the student can say, I'm the cause of the creation. I create, I sustain, I resolve all of this, right? So now, very important point here is, from Jiva, you have to remove the contradictory portions. In Ishvara, also the contradictory attributes we have to remove, right? So Ishvara minus the superior attributes will be Nirguna Brahma Chaitanyam. Jiva minus the inferior attributes will be Nirguna Atma Chaitanyam. The all-pervading Nirguna Brahma Chaitanyam and the enclosed Nirguna Atma Chaitanyam obtaining in the body, both of them are one Chaitanyam only. There is only one all-pervading, divisionless, niravayavam, partless consciousness, which is the essential truth behind Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara. So the triangle of Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara is supported only by only one absolute reality, which is the attributeless consciousness. It can be called Atma also, it can be called Brahman also. And again, another aside note, Swamiji always says, our journey is to move from triangular format to binary format, right? Why is this important to understand? Initially, in childhood and even all the way up to our Grihastha-ashrama, what are we taught? We are a finite jiva. There is God, Ishvara. And there is this world around us, which is, bringing up a lot of issues, problems, whether it is daughter, son, profession, family, anything, right? And we need the support of God and we need his help to tide over all this. And whenever there is a problem, we run to him, right? So we also saw Artha Bhakti, Artharthi Bhakti, etc. in Gita. Now, from this stage, we need to move to the binary format through the Vedantic knowledge assimilation, where we say, I am essentially the Atma behind all the body, mind, complex, etc. Right? So, Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Now, that is binary format. And very important is, some people have this doubt as to why from binary we can't go to unitary or single format, right? We have to remember one thing. The single or unitary format will work only in Nididhyasanam, because once you come to the Vyavaharika plane, you have to be associated with the body and interact with the world. So the best way of dealing with it is, I am Atma behind all the Anatma body. So, or Anatma is Nitya, Aham Satyam, right? So you can never, in the Vyavaharika plane, go to the unitary format. We must remember this. And I'm glad that Swamiji actually explained this again in a recent class. And I thought I should also explain this again here, right? So for the Vyavaharika level interactions, we will have to stop with binary format only, right? So it is this absolute reality which is revealed through the Mahavakyam equation. And because the absolute cannot be revealed directly, this indirect method has been used. We saw all the details, right? So much we saw on the Lakshanas, etc. Right? So in this verse 78, Ubayartika Tvaiva Bhavyam, the third Lakshana alone is used. And then in the following two verses, he's going to say how it is implemented. Now, this Jahati Ajahati Lakshana is also called Bhagatyaga Lakshana. So this is a lot simpler to remember, Bhagatyaga Lakshana. You are actually removing one part and, retaining the other part. That is why it is called Bhagatyaga Lakshana. So, tataustu tau lakshanaya sulakshyau tayora kandai karasatva siddhaye nalam jahatyana tata jahatya kintu bhayartatmikai kayaiva bhavyam. So, let us read the next verse. Sadeva datto yamitiha chaikata.
Sadeva datto yamitiha chaikata.
Viruddha dharma shamapasya katyate.
Viruddha dharmam shamapasya katyate.
Yatha tatha tattvamasiti vakye.
Yatha tatha tattvamasiti vakye.
Viruddha dharmanubhayatra hitva.
Viruddha dharmanubhayatra hitva.
So, for the application of the third Lakshana, Shankaracharya is taking this example. Saha Devadattaha Ayam. Right? Otherwise called Soyam Devadattaha. Very often used in the scriptures, this example. That Devadatta of the past and the Devadatta of the current time are one and the same. The equation is made because they are superficially different. The past Devadatta had youthful features. The present Devadatta has aging features. And because there are superficial differences, we are not able to recognize him. So for the sake of recognition called Pratyabhijna, this equation is made. And I gave the example of that Raju is this Raju who is in our class, right? So the same thing, Soyam Devadatta, you extend, that is the Shastric example. So therefore, superficial physical features are set aside mentally. Earlier, behind that youthful body, there was one person. Now, behind this aging body, there is a person. That person behind the variable bodies, these two variable bodies, is one and the same, right? So we take the primary meaning of both and remove the contradictory features and then understand as one and the same. Therefore, Acharya says, Sahadeva dattaha ayam iti iha. Right? Iha means asmin vakye. right? The oneness of the past Devadatta and the present Devata is revealed. How Viruddha Dharmamsham Apasya. That Amsham word is very important. Part of the features are Apasya, removed. Removing the contradictory physical features, Ekata Katyate, right? So, I understand Pujya Swamiji used to give this example. So, in the mathematical equation, 4 plus 3 equals 9 minus 2, right? So, when you see the equation, just visually see, you see 4 symbols, there's a minus symbol, there's a plus symbol, plus you have 4, 3, 9, 2, right? So the symbols are different, they're all superficially different. But when we see 9 minus 2, we understand it is 7 mentally. And similarly, 4 plus 3, we understand 7 mentally, right? So, and you nod our head, we nod in acceptance, right? So it is very similar. So between Jiva and Ishvara also, you see only the differences physically. One is omniscient, omnipotent. The other one is, like very limited in its attributes, etc., right? Totally different. But when you penetrate both of them and see the invisible consciousness behind both, you just do that equation in the mind, discerning at the same time. And tat tvam asi, right? That will revolutionize our life, right? When you claim, I am God, right? So, ekata katyate. Now, yata tata tat tvam asi iti vakye. Yata meaning just as in the case of the example, tata, in the same manner, in the Mahavakyam also, tat tvam asi iti vakye. In this also, don't take the Vachyartha, take the Lakshyartha and then equate. Here, the dress being Shariratrayam and Maya, as long as you are able to remove the contradictory attributes between Jiva and Ishvara, removing the body-mind complex and the inferior attributes of Jiva, removing Maya and the superior attributes of Ishvara, then the Vyavaharikam Atma and the Vyavaharikam Brahman, you are not any longer taking, you're not taking the Vachyartham. Ubhayatra Viruddha Dharman Hitva. So, Viruddha Dharma means the superior attributes and the inferior attributes, both you remove mentally by understanding that they are of a lower order of reality and they are not an integral part of consciousness. Therefore, Acharya says Viruddha Dharman Ubhayatra Hitva, right? Both. So, in the case of Tat Padartha and Tvam Padartha, you set aside this and then one should set aside Jahyat, basically, you have to add here because Hitva doesn't complete the sentence here. So as long as you have Dehabhimana, you will look at yourself only from the body-mind standpoint. You will feel a miserable individual. So first we have to go through Panchakosha Viveka. We have to drop the Panchakoshas. Then at the time of Mahavakya Shravanam, the Panchakosha Viveka topic must be fresh and alive in the mind, right? But generally what happens is most grihasthas are so busy with all the work in the house, the family problems, professional problems, investments, all of that, that Panchakosha Viveka is not going to come. Whenever you think, always it comes only with the Panchakoshas, right? So you always think of yourself as a miserable individual having lot of problems. So through Nididhyasanam, through practicing values, etc., our mind comes to a state where it can discern this, right? So that is why whether we do physical sannyasa or not, whether we take to physical sannyasa or not, mental sannyasa, right, of Panchakosha is compulsory for Vedanta to work. So Ubhayatra Viruddha Dharman Hitva means basically taking to sannyasa, inner sannyasa, right? So may you become a mental sannyasi of Panchakoshas, right? So remove the Panchakoshas only from you, remove the Maya part from Ishvara, then whatever is left out, right? Bodha Rupaha Avasishyate. We saw this earlier in verse 60 also. So that Bodha Rupaha you retain. That is the pure Sakshi Chaitanyam. Sadeva Dattoyamitiha Chaikata Viruddha Dharmamsha Mapasya Katyate Yata Tata Tattvamasiti Vakye Viruddha Dharmanu Bhayatra Hitva. So let us read the next verse. samlakshya chinmatrataya sadatmanoho
सल्लक्ष्य चिन्मात्रतया सदात्मनोः
akhanda bhavah parichiyate budhaihi
अखण्डभावः परिचीयते बुधैः
evam mahavakyashaten katyate
एवं महावाक्यशतेन कथ्यते
ब्रह्मात्मनोरैक्यमखण्डभावः
ब्रह्मात्मनोरैक्यमखण्डभावः
So sanlakshya chinmatrataya sadatmanoho. So the bhagatyaga lakshana being a mixed lakshana, having employed the jahati lakshana part and the ajahati lakshana part, both, right? By which you retain one part and then you set aside another part. So chinmatrataya samlakshya, the word tvam should go up to Sakshi Chaitanyam, the consciousness part. And then, of course, at the time of Mahavakya, the student is in Samadhi, right? He's absorbed, basically. And he is absorbed in the meaning of Chaitanyam. He has forgotten the body, the mind, the family, the fatherhood, the sonhood, the motherhood, the husbandhood, all of this he has dropped and he is in absorption. Shravanam itself is Nididhyasanam, when he's hearing itself, right? So, Yajnavalkya actually tells Maitreyi, Sahovacha Yajnavalkyah Priyavatarenah Sati Priyam Bhashasayehi Asva Vyakyasyamite Vyachakshanasya Tume Nididhyasyasva Iti. Right? So he says, I shall tell you as I am teaching, you please be, focusing on it. That itself becomes Nididhyasanam. And if I'm able to come to a class and focus and I'm able to listen and completely forget my worldly individuality, that itself is a great thing. That is what is said here. So, chinmatrataya sanglakshya by bhagatyaga lakshana, arrive at chinmatram, the consciousness alone. That is not only in Jiva's case, in Ishvara's case also. Set aside the mithya maya. Ishvara is not the creator. All the vyavaharika level things you discard. Vyavaharikam Brahman is gone. What is left behind is the non-creator, the consciousness, paramarthikam Brahma Chaitanyam. Thus, there is one all-pervading consciousness called Brahman, and there is the enclosed consciousness called Atma. So, the enclosed consciousness Atma and all-pervading consciousness Brahman, both are one and the same. You imagine a pot space, a room space, and total space. Pot space being Jiva's enclosed consciousness, room space being Ishvara's enclosed consciousness, and the total space being all-pervading consciousness. So, chinmatrataya samlakshya sadatmanoho, sat. Sat meaning Brahman, Atma means Atma. So, for the words Brahman and Atma, you have to take the lakshyartha, akhanda bhavaha budhaihi parichiyate. So, the vyavaharika Brahman is gone, vyavaharika Atma is gone. Paramarthika Atma and Brahman, both are there, total consciousness and individual consciousness. Akhanda bhavaha, they are of non-divisible nature because consciousness is non-dual, it is non-divisible, right? So, individual consciousness is you cannot say it's a product of the total consciousness, etc., right? Or it's a part of the total consciousness, you can't say. It is only a seeming division. And exactly the example that I gave, like pot space, room space, total space. It's only seeming division, right? The space cannot have parts. So Gaudapadacharya tells this in Mandukya Karika in the 3rd chapter. Okay, the 7th verse. Nakashasya ghatakasho vikara vayavau yatha naivatmanas sada jivo vikara vayavau tata. Right? So, I am neither part of God nor am I product of God. I am God. If you take the special meaning, that is my real nature. Therefore, Acharya says here, akhanda bhavaha, meaning non-divisible oneness, parichiyate budhaihi. So, parichiyate means nishchiyate. That is clearly understood and registered by a competent student or competent students, budaihi. So, who is competent? One who has taken to sannyasa. Now, we must remember this is not the ochre robe physical sannyasa, but it is, you should have had panchagosha abhimana tyagaha. So, that is what is meant here by sannyasa. So, like in our Nirvana Shatkam, when we say, Mrityurna Shankana Mejati Vedaha Pitanaiva Menaiva Matana Janma Na Bandurna Mitram Gururnaiva Shishyaha Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. Right? And also in Dakshinamurti Stotram, right? Vishwam Pashyati Karya Karanataya Swaswami Sambandataha Shishya Charyataya Tataiva Pitriputradhyatmana Vedataha Swapne Jagrati Vaya Esha Purushaha Maya Paribramitaha. So he whose power of Maya enables one to experience the world as, teacher, disciple, father, etc., during both the waking and dream states. So such a Dakshinamurti, who's embodied in the auspicious Guru, in my Guru, I offer my profound salutations. That's what this verse says. So it is the Guru who is expounding the meaning clearly to the student and is making him understand, right? Very important. So all relationships basically, as we saw, are in the Vyavaharika plane only, in the dualistic, pluralistic, empirical realm. So we are trying to understand the real one, which is relationless, Asanga Chaitanyam, which the student has to remember at the time of Shravanam. And that is why before Upanishad classes, we chant the Shanti Pata, and each of the Shanti Patas has such profound meaning, right? Because our life is so fast paced, even if I myself try to have that 10-minute chanting before, it is difficult for people to log in. Why do we do that? Because over 10 minutes, hopefully, the outside world that is crashing into the head will stop coming down, right? Because you're focusing on either the Shanti Pata or some stotrams like this, right? So it's very difficult. And in fact, I speak much faster than Swamiji. Swamiji speaks slower. So in order to be concentrating in Swamiji's class without, a PowerPoint and the speed, you definitely have to practice to ensure that other things don't enter the head at that time. Otherwise, out of 1 hour, we won't be able to grasp even 30 minutes, right? So the internal sannyasa is very important, right? So this is the Ahampada Lakshyartha. And now, not only Shravanam, we are supposed to do Mananam also. Because only if we revisit what we have learned during Shravanam and then you get into Nididhyasanam, all these will make sense, right? So in Vivekachudamani, from verses 253 to 418, Nididhyasanam has been discussed at length and we are not going to be doing that part. But however, Swamiji picked about 21 of these verses, very beautiful verses, which he recommended for daily Nididhyasanam. So I will see if I can record them with the meaning and the text portion and the chanting itself, and I put it up so that you can use that. The running time will be about 8 minutes, and then you can kind of do Nididhyasanam maybe for 5 to 10 minutes, just recalling, right? Because even this is a crutch. According to me, listening to something is also a crutch. So you should be able to, let go of that also, like the pole vault, and should be able to recollect all the teachings on one's own in Nididhyasanam. Early mornings are best for that, right? So Nididhyasanam has been discussed elaborately here. So now the most important thing is we have to make sure that we have this inner sannyasa. So parichiyate, meaning the student registers the message. If he has got a calm mind, he remembers Panchakosha Viveka topic very deeply, right? So then Acharya says, this is not a casual teaching, not an incidental teaching. This is the central teaching. And as I said earlier also, in Chandogya Upanishad, Shashtadhyaya, chapter 6, 9 times Tatu Tvam Asi is repeated, giving a different example each time. And therefore, Acharya says, Evam Mahavakya Shatena Katyate. In this manner, right? Mahavakyam Shatam. Basically, so many samples are there, and only 4 of them we normally, remember and keep talking about. There are hundreds. So in Taittiriya Upanishad also, there is a famous Mahavakyam. Sayaschayam Purushe Yascha Savaditye Sayekaha Saya Evam Vid. Right? So there are very many. Even in Gita, we have Kshetrajnam Chapi Mam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. That is a Mahavakya verse, right? So Acharya writes a very, very big bhashyam here on this Kshetrajna portion, right? So therefore, Mahavakya Shatena Katyate, it is revealed, right? So Brahma Atmanoho Akhanda Bhavaha Aikyam. So Acharya uses the word Akhanda Bhavaha to avoid confusion, because when we have this, when we use the word Aikyam, you think it's merging into Ishvara, right? Moksha meaning Jiva merges into Ishvara, like something like Jiva will travel, go to Kailasha, join. Especially in the movies, they show this light going from the saint and going and joining, etc. Right? So therefore, your mindset is also like that, right? So there's nothing like that. So it is only a figurative merger, right? So that is the Aikyam is figurative. Basically, it's just like pot space merging into all-pervading space. So merging into Ishvara during moksha means understanding that I am never away from Ishvara. It's a clean intellectual event, and it is just the ignorance and misconception which are in the mind or intellect which gets cleared, right? It's just figurative, right? So you cannot like transcend the intellect or any of these things. So it's better that we don't imagine any of these things. It's just simple understanding. That's all, right? They're just cognitive phenomena. So evam mahavakya shatena brahma atmanoho akhanda bhavaha aikyam katyate. So the oneness, not physical merger of or brahma atmanoho, of brahman and atma katyate, right? So Paramarthikam Brahma and Paramarthikam Atma, not the dressed up versions, right? So Aikyam Katyate. So with this, the Mahavakya Vichara part is complete. Sanlakshya Chinmatrataya Sadatmanoho Akhanda Bhavaha Parichiyate Budaihi Evam Mahavakya Shatena Katyate Brahmatmano Raikyam Akhanda Bhavaha. Now, in the following 2 shlokas, he is going to consolidate the entire central teaching, right? And because it is a consolidation, Acharya shifts the meter also. Very important meters and very, very important verses. Mritkaryam sakalam gatadi satatam.
Mritkaryam sakalang ghatadi satatam.
Mrinmatramevabhitaha.
Mrinmatramevabhitaha.
Tadvat sajjanitam sadatmakamidam.
Tadvat sajjanitam sadatmakamidam.
Sanmatramevakhilam.
Tanmatramevakhilam.
Yasmannasti satah param kimapi tat.
Yasmannasti satah parang kimapi tat.
Satyam sa atma swayam.
Satyam sa atma swayam.
Tasmat tattvamasi prashantamamalam.
Tasmat tattvamasi prashantamamalam.
Brahmadvayam yat param.
Brahmadvayayat param.
So the cardinal teaching of Vedanta is generally presented in the form of 3 components. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. This is the Advaita teaching, right? So from verses 66 to 73, the Brahma Swarupam we saw. So Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya were covered there. And in Chandogya, the Shashtadhyaya, the 6th chapter, Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya was covered in the first 7 section, right? So that part has been covered in verses 66 to 73 here. Then the third component, the most important one, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha, we covered in verses 74 to 80, which we just completed. So that is dealt with in Chandogya, 6th chapter, right? From sections 8 to 16 in 9 sections. So the entire 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad beautifully presents Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Hopefully someday we should be able to do Chandogya Upanishad. So in case any of you are interested and has done the Gita study already and are not part of my other Upanishad interest group, do drop in a mail to vedantasatsanga@gmail.com and I will register. In case we do Chandogya Upanishad, we can, get you also included. So the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad focuses totally on the Sat part. And as I said, it is repeated so many times, right? And that is what is being covered here in these beautiful verses. And for revealing that Brahman is real and Jagat, the world is unreal, in Chandogya, 3 beautiful examples are taken. The clay and earthenware example, gold and ornament example, iron and the nail clipper example, right? So, yata saumyaikena mritpindena sarvam mrinmayam vijnatam syad is one example. Yata saumyaikena lohamanina sarvam lohamayam vijnanam syad is the second one. Yata saumyaikena nakanikrintena sarvam kashnyayasam vijnatam syad. That's the third example. So 3 examples showing that Karanam is Satyam, because that alone remains in all 3 periods of time. Karyam, the products are Mithya, because they do not exist in the 3 periods of time. So Karanam Satyam, Karyam Mithya. So the earthenware borrows existence from clay alone, right? So Vacharambanam Vikaro Namadheya Mrittiketyeva Satyam. So the Karanam clay is Satyam, Karyam pot is Mithya. So therefore, Chandogya Upanishad says, Brahman is Satyam, the truth behind the entire creation. And not only Brahman is the truth behind the creation, Brahman is the truth behind your own created body-mind complex also. So if you are the body-mind-sense complex, the product, then your truth, which is behind you, is again only Brahman. Just as clay is behind earthenware. So the real you is nothing but that Brahman. Karanam Brahman is behind your own Karya Shariram, Karya mind. That Brahman is available as Atma. And if the Brahman is the truth behind the creation, it is in my own body in the form of Chaitanyam, the 5-featured consciousness, right? So, Saya eshoni maitadatmya idagum sarvam, yeah. Aitadatmyam idam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi shvetaketo. It repeats so many times, right? So starting from Chandogya 687, it goes on. So 9 times Chandogya says, Aitadatmyam idam sarvam. That Brahman is the truth behind everything. Tat tvam asi. Tat satyam. That Brahman is the reality. Saha atma. Right? That Brahman is behind the creation, behind your own body, mind, sense complex also. Tat tvam asi, and you are that Atma. So you are that Brahman. Essentially, you are the body. Superficially, for Vyavahara, you are the mind, right? And basically, you are the Brahman behind, you are nothing but the Brahman. For Vyavahara, you have body, you have mind, etc. Right? So, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Exactly how the wave has to realize that I am water. Similarly, I have to realize that I am the Atma. Right? So, I am Brahman, and Brahman is the cause of the universe. Therefore, I am the cause of the universe. Instead of saying I am a product in the universe, I learned to say I am the cause of the entire universe. Without me, the world cannot exist. So in Advaita Pancharatnam, there's a very beautiful verse. Matto nanyat kinchidatrasti vishwam satyam bahyam vastu mayopakliptam adarshantar bhasamanasya tulyam mayadvaite bhati tasmat shivoham. Right? So Advaita Pancharatnam, I am the truth, the all-pervading truth, right? So the summary of the 16 sections of Chandogya Upanishad 6th chapter, Shankaracharya presents in one verse, that is this verse, right? It's a very beautiful condensation. So the shloka is very important. Mrit karyam sakalam gatadi satatam abhitaha. All these earthenware like pot, lid, etc. Mrit karyam are all products of clay, born out of clay by simple addition of nama rupa. So mrit karyam, pot is a product of clay, and what you call pot is nothing but clay with a superficial nama rupa, right? So before creation and after its destruction, it is only clay. Even when you're handling the pot, a jnani will say there is no such thing called pot. Keeping the pot that is holding water, a jnani will say there is no such thing called pot. It is essentially clay only, right? So a jnani will discern this at all times. Before the creation of pot, after the creation of pot, during when the pot exists, it is the Advaitam continues. So Advaitam Brahman alone was, is, and ever will be. Satatam trikale api mrinmatram eva. It is only clay. You only name it pot, right? Similarly, bangle, ring, chain, etc. for gold. So therefore, Vyavahara requires pluralistic name, because without that, you cannot call everything clay, everything gold, right? So abhitaha means everywhere, right? There is only clay. In and through all the earthenware, clay alone is there. And this is the example given in Chandogya Upanishad. So Shankaracharya brings it here and extends it to the Brahman and the world. Tadvat Sajjanitam Akhilam Sadatmakam Sanmatram. Right? In the same way, this entire pluralistic universe, which is a product, right? And after Big Bang alone, it evolved. So this product called universe, which includes our body, mind, sense complex, also the entire universe, Sat Janitam is born out of Sat, the Brahman. So Shankaracharya uses this word Sat because he is taking it from the Chandogya Upanishad 6th chapter, right? So the entire cosmos, which includes all the living beings, Sat Janitam, they're all created by Sat or Brahman, which is of the nature of existence. We should include Chit also and Ananda, right? So Sat Janitam, that Brahman's product alone is the entire creation. Sat Atmakam, it is of the nature of Brahman or existence. And the word Sadatmakam is a very, very significant word, right? See, normally what happens is whenever you have an adjective and a noun, right? The adjective reveals the attribute of the noun. Like say a soft pillow, right? Softness is the adjective of the noun. That's how we are used to, right? Now, we cannot apply this everywhere. For instance, golden ornaments or earthen pot or wooden chair, in these also golden is an adjective to ornament, but here they are special adjectives which are not revealing the attributes, but they are revealing the content, right? So basically the truth or the content of these products. So when we say earthen pot, it is revealing the content of the pot, which is clay or earth. Similarly, golden ornament, it's revealing the gold in it, right? So there are content revealing adjectives, truth revealing adjectives. And now Vedanta says, when you say a man exists, he is an existent man, he's a conscious man, still alive and conscious, right? There are conscious man, existent man, happy man, three adjectives. But what Vedanta is saying is they are not attribute revealing, but content revealing. Right? This is a very big inquiry which happens, and we need to spend a lot of time to understand this. And it's very interesting that in Sanskritam, the grammar also somewhere, is around all these specific nuances that Advaita Vedanta or Vedanta is trying to bring out. So here it is not an attribute revealing adjective, but it is a content revealing adjective. So existence is not actually an attribute of the person, or consciousness is not an attribute of the person. You have to say that it is existence is Brahman, which is the content, the truth of the world. So world is not a noun. World is not a substance. World is like an attribute. So like an attribute because world depends on existence, Brahman, the reality. Similarly, Conscious man, when you say, consciousness is not an attribute. Consciousness is the content, the truth. So similarly, Ananda, happiness is not an attribute, right? Happiness is my nature. It is my content. It is the cause of the universe. So Anando Brahmeti Vyajanat Anandadyeva Kalvimani Bhutani Jayante. We saw this in Bhrigu. So happiness is the fundamental truth. From happiness, the world evolves. So in happiness, world exists. Into happiness, world resolves, right? Highest and profound philosophy here. So sadatmakam, it is not a gunaha, right? Sat na gunaha, natu sat gunakam, but sat atmakam, right? So Acharya says, Sat Atmakam idam Sat Matram eva akhilam. The entire world is nothing but one substance, right? And because world depends on Brahman, therefore San Matram eva. Everything is existence. Exactly like all furniture is wood, all of the ornaments are gold, right? So this is full consolidation in just one verse. Yasmat Sataha Param Kimapi na Asti. Other than Brahman, the pure existence, consciousness principle, kimapi nasti, there is nothing else. So, how do we say there is nothing else? There's so many names, forms, etc. We say we don't count Nama Rupa as a second thing. We cannot count them as an independent thing, right? So, Rupam asti. So, the existence of the shape, right, of the ornament is borrowed, right? But similarly, the existence of the world is borrowed from Brahman. Thus, names and forms have got borrowed existence. They are as good as non-existence, right? So, Nama Rupa is as good as non-existence. Therefore, Acharya says, Kimapi Nasti. So, when he says Nasti, we should say as good as non-existent, right? It is experientially available, exactly like mirage water or dream. So, that is why Krishna says, Matstani Sarva Bhutani. The world is in me, experientially available. And immediately he follows up saying, Nacha Matstani Bhutani. World is really not there. Kimapi Nasti Yasmat. Because of Yasmat. Now, Tasmat is also understood. Tasmat Tat Satyam. Right? Therefore, that Brahman alone is the truth of everything. And Sa Atma, therefore, that Brahman alone is the inner content, the inner essence of everything that exists, right? So, Brahman is Atma, the content of everything. So, the word Atma means self or content, right? So, Tasma Tatu Tvam Asi. Therefore, the bottom line is Tatu Tvam Asi. Therefore, oh student, hope you are listening, right? And you must understand that you are that Brahman. Essentially, yourself is Brahman. Brahman is yourself. I am Brahman. Brahman is myself. First, I say myself is Brahman. Then I say Brahman is myself. So, from Lakshyartha angle, I am Brahman. Tasmat tatu tvam asi Lakshyartha drishtya. And what type of Brahman? Yat prashantam amalam param advayam. So, which is ever tranquil, whatever be the condition of the mind, the turbulence is in the mind, but you, the Atma, are never disturbed, right? Because I am prashantam, deeply calm. Amalam, meaning ever shuddham. There is no impurity in you, the Brahman, the Atma. There is no raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, etc. The mind, yes, requires attention. We have to, work on it, etc. Then Brahma Advayam. I am non-dual. I am the essence behind the entire world. So the world does not exist separate from me. I am the non-dual Brahman, Advayam. Yat Param. Param is the absolute reality, that Brahman which is beyond time, space, action, reaction, relationships, right? So, Ishvara is within the empirical world because Ishvara has got action. Ishvara responds to the actions of people by giving karma, palam, etc. Right? So, but Ishvara as he is basically akarta, right? Ishvara is a karta when he is with a costume. Otherwise, he is an akarta. That is why Bhagavan said in Gita, in Lord Krishna says, Tasya kartaram api mam vidya kartaram avyayam. Tasya kartaram api mam means with costumes I do everything. But remember, Arjuna, with the akartaram avyayam, that undressed I is akarta, right? So without the shariratrayam, I am akarta. Very, very important verse that we must remember. The next verse is also a very, very a similar kind of consolidation. So here it was the Chandogya 6th chapter, which is over, right? And the next one, which we will be getting the next verse is Mandukya Karika 2nd chapter summary, right? So, Mritkaryam Sakalam Ghatadi Satatam Mrinmatram Evabhitaha Tadvat Sajjanitam Sadatmakamidam Sanmatramevakilam Yasman Asti Satap Param Kimapi Tat Satyam Sa Atma Swayam Tasma Tattvamasi Prashantam Amalam Brahmadvayam Yatparam. So we will do verse 82 in the next class. So that will be a Mandukya Karika chapter 2 summary. Again, it will be quite profound. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Next week, 21st, yeah, it's Guru Purnima day. In the night, anyway, we will have regular class.